today I'm not just going to talk about scheduling and repurposing of your social media content. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into something that I call content pillars and buckets as well that can help you when it comes to figuring out what is it that you want to post on social media, why you want to post it, and how you can reach your ideal audience. So on today's agenda, I will briefly talk about content strategy. It is a bit of a beast, but I definitely will go over one aspect of that as well. Content pillars, repurposing your content, as well as scheduling out your content so that you can save yourself time on the one end so that you can actually engage with your audience on the other end. Just briefly about me, my name is Michelle Lang. As Todd said, I am employed by the Thames Valley District School Board, but I am an athletic coordinator for TV Raw, which is the Thames Valley Regional Athletic Association. So I oversee all of the operations and administrations there. I'm also a very proud small business owner. I was telling Todd before we came on that when I was in university back in the 90s, I had aspirations of being in sports marketing and working for the Toronto Blue Jays. I thought that would be a really cool thing to do. I was a huge fan of Blue Jays. And the guidance counselor at Western said to me, Michelle, how many females do you think actually work in sports marketing? And I asked her, I don't know, how many work in sports marketing? She's like, none. They don't exist. So you're going to go and you're going to get a degree and it won't do anything for you. So I segued and I went into teaching. And not that that was a bad decision. It was a great decision. For the last 20 years, I've absolutely loved my job, my career. It has definitely been a calling and a passion of mine. But I've also had a deep burning desire to still be in marketing, and social media marketing is kind of where I navigated into. I'm also a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a friend. I love wine. I'm a huge wine lover. I call myself a wino. I love no-name chips, and I'm a proud TikTok fan as well. My best friend and I have a TikTok account that we have amounted almost 25,000 followers on, and all we talk about on there is wine, no-name chips, and how our children's voices can sometimes drive us a little bit crazy. So we're a little relatable there with the moms. So we've got a little bit of a following there. So it has been a lot of fun growing that account just out of the pure love of just having fun. So here we are. There are 3.78 billion social media users worldwide in 2021. That's almost half of the world's population. So to ignore social media for your small business would be a huge oversight. On average, there are people spend an average of 2.5 hours per day on social media. So that's a lot of time. If you were to think of all of the people that are on social media, they're scrolling. They might be scrolling just out of boredom. They might be scrolling because they're researching a certain product, or they may be scrolling to engage with different people on the internet. More and more, especially during this pandemic, we have seen that we use social media for a variety of reasons, whether that's to entertain us, whether it's to inspire us, maybe to motivate us. I can tell you that the one amazing thing about TikTok, and TikTok right now is leading in terms of how many hours people spend on TikTok. And I say hours because literally it is hours. What's amazing about TikTok, and as you scroll through TikTok, within a 10-minute swing period, you can be laughing, you could be inspired and really motivated to do something. And then in the next 5 minutes, you could be crying because you saw someone rescue a dog. And next thing you know, you're crying. And that is the emotions and the heartstrings and the tug of human emotions that TikTok is creating, that all of the other apps are trying to recreate right now. 54% of social media users are using social media right now to research brands and products. So if you take that 3.78 billion users that I used at the beginning, and we're saying over half of them right now are using it to research brands and products, this is a huge, huge number. And more small businesses especially are starting to see that they can actually reach their ideal clients using platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. All of those platforms are being widely used right now to be able to, A, say your message, so your ideal message, but then also B, reach your ideal client. So have you ever wondered, when am I going to post though, Michelle? I have this platform. I've got Facebook, I've got Instagram, I've got Pinterest. I just don't know what to post for my small business. And don't get me wrong, I understand as a small business owner myself, we struggle sometimes because we are also the accountant, we're also the head of HR, we're the CEO, we are the ones trying to then ship out products. So we're trying to do all of these things then to sit there and say, okay, now I have to actually also post on social media. Now what do I post? This is where it starts to get a little tricky, because what can happen is people can get confused that this is a social media app and they may think it's more like a billboard. And that's where maybe we start to fall off a little bit. So I use what's called the 80-20 method with all of my clients. My clients range from veterinarians to therapists to aesthetic service providers. I also have an insurance agent that I oversee and account for as well. And we use the 80-20 method, and I fully believe that this method is tried and true when it comes to a great strategy to have. What this means is 80% of the time, we are educating, we're entertaining, we're connecting, we're having conversations, and we're inspiring our audience. The other 20% of the time, we are promoting our services, our products, and our brand. And what's cool about this is that if you get really, really good at educating, inspiring, and connecting with your audience, you're actually promoting at the exact same time. So it's kind of a neat thing if you can marry the two of them together. But what's happening is that social media users, when we go on to social media, we start to see if brands or small businesses or even medium-sized businesses or large businesses, if all they're doing is promoting their products and they're promoting their services or they're telling us about a sale, we start to tune out. It's just sort of like, if your parents yelling at you constantly all the time, I always say to my husband, if you yell too much, they're just going to tune you out. You got to come up with different strategies of ways to connect with people. So when we're looking at, if you're going online and all you're doing is you're promoting look at this product we have, or look at these services that we have, people become fatigued over that, and they tune you out, and then they stop engaging. And a quick, easy way to see an engagement rate of a brand is to take a look at how many followers that they have, and then take a look at how many comments they have, or likes that they have, or any sort of interaction, whether that's a share, a save, et cetera, et cetera. But if they're having this massive, massive following, and yet only 2 or 3 comments, it makes you go, what's going on here? So they're obviously not really reaching their ideal audience, and likely their ideal audience is not following them as well. So when we're looking at that 80%, I briefly talked in that last slide about, the different buckets. I put them into 6 buckets, and this is where for me, this is the fun part when I'm working with my clients, because I'm creative and I love to come up with different ways to reach our ideal audience. So the first bucket is education. Educational posts are posts that you would do where you're trying to really educate your audience and give them I can do this on my own. So these are things like how-tos, maybe it could be a tutorial. You could talk about facts, infographics, so that when your audience is looking at that post, we're talking about whether or not you're on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, it doesn't really matter. They feel like they've got a quick win after they have left. So for example, if I was an insurance agent, maybe I might say, these are the 5 reasons why you should call, your insurance agent. Or these are the 3 facts you need to know about home insurance. I mean, I might not know anything about that, but you've now just educated me. You've just taught me something, which is great. People want to feel like they can do things too. That's why TikTok has become so profound. And what used to happen in 2016, if you're a mom like me, You knew that, my kids did it for dancing, and that's what, most people still think it's for. And you would be surprised to know that the reach on TikTok is so large and so vast. To actually not use the platform to educate your audience would be sad, in my opinion. It's a great platform to use. Secondly, inspiration is great. People want to be inspired. They want to go on to social media platforms and they want to be inspired, whether that's through a quote or whether that's before, like you see someone doing a recipe, you could say, here's what you could do with, feta cheese and baby tomatoes. Who knew what you could do? And then all of a sudden you're inspired and you're like, I can make that. I'm a busy mom. I'm busy. I need to make something quick that is also nutritious and tasty. Awesome. Personal stories are also amazing. To share your personal story about how it came to be that you owned a small business, or maybe a struggle that you went through, or possibly even thinking about a vulnerable moment, or maybe, crossroads that you had. These are really important because they humanize you. People don't buy products from businesses, they buy products from people, or they work with people, their services, because of who they are. So humanizing you and showing up and sharing that personal story, you connect with people, and that's what I think too is also inspiring content. I have a client of mine that she is a therapist, and we actually every Wednesday we share something about her personal story. And again, I give her prompts about what we're going to share. And those are usually our number one engaging posts. People comment on those posts where they're like, oh, this happened to me too, or, oh, that's very similar to me, or I went through that as well. People want to know that, you're a human being behind, your platform. As well, we have connection style posts. These are like behind the scenes. Small business owners, I don't know if you've seen some of the behind the scenes content that people share. These are amazing pieces of content because you really get a chance to see what's happening with someone's business behind the scenes. I know Farming Folks is a business that I follow. They take repurposed wood and they create art with it. And signs, and they do behind the scenes footage, and I enjoy watching that because you get a chance to get a sneak peek into what it's like in their business. As well, you can share things like nostalgic posts. These could be things like, Throwback Thursdays, for example, where you could take people down a memory lane and really connect with people. Do you remember this, for example? Another content bucket that I love to use is conversation style posts. These could be questions that you ask your audience, this or that. I oversee a real estate company agent, and this or that options are great engagement pieces. People want to say, do you live by the beach or do you want to live by the farm? These are the options that you have. People like to comment on that. Do you like, white cupboards? Are you preferring black cupboards? People like to chit chat. Again, it's social media. So you have to remember that social media is social. We're meant to be talking with one another. This is not a platform that we are just slapping up, our latest sale and hoping that people are just going to come to our business and start buying from us. We need to build a following, and to build a following is through communication. Communication builds community. Those community become loyal followers. They are the ones generally that will be talking about you to other people, but also talking to you and then likely buying your services or your products. Entertainment is another fun content bucket to use as well. I would say that's my favorite one to use. These are like memes and GIFs, jokes, fun holidays. For me on Instagram, I really like to use GIFs and memes because it connects a lot. People laugh. They go, oh my God, this happened to me too. Or, oh my goodness, this was so funny. I can relate to this. That's the relatability factor as well. Again, people want to be entertained as well and have fun, laugh, whatever. I also like to use Instagram Reels. That is Instagram's newest feature, similar to TikTok. They are these little short form videos that are 30 or 60 seconds in length. You can use audio, music, or just your own voice as well to share and communicate your message. These are great. They came out in August of last year. Little difficult the learning curve of them is a little difficult, but the reach on them is quite large. And then your last 20%, we have your promotion. And again, you are allowed to promote your products, your services through testimonials, through shares, through saves, through sales. You can do all of that. There's no one saying that you can't. I would just say that people will tune you out if this is the bulk of your content on social media. So with that, you've got the buckets that you're filling with your content or your topics. So the pillars are different. The pillars are exactly what your foundation of your messaging is. So for example, we'll use me as an example here so I can show you. My audience are small business owners. These are the people that I'm targeting. So when I actually create content, I create it with them in mind all of the time. I never create content I don't start talking about boats one day, because that would confuse the platform. It would confuse my audience. And there's a fun little thing in the background of every single social media app, and it's called an algorithm. And algorithms need clarity. They need to know, what is your content about? Your content is about this. Okay, we are going to push it out to ideal audiences that would like your content. So my 3 pillars, these are the things that I talk about all of the time. I talk about content creation tips for small business owners. I talk about social media strategy for small business owners. And I also talk about how small business owners can save time on social media. Underneath those 3 pillars, I have boatloads of topics that I can talk about. So when it comes to content creation tips, which you'll see in the next slide, I can talk about how to use Canva to create content, how to use content buckets to create content, how to repurpose your content. All of those things I will talk about. So I'll give you another example. One of my therapist clients, their 3 pillars, and again, you can have as many as 2, as little as 2, up to as many as 6 or more. It's whatever that you are talking about on a regular basis and how you want to communicate your message to your ideal audience, the people that are following you. So my one therapist client, our 3 pillars that we use are healthy relationships, and underneath that comes a whack of topics, men's mental health issues, as well as codependency. Those are his 3 pillars, because that is who the people he is serving, and those are the people that he is serving, as well as the people he's seeing as clients. So it's important that we make sure that we create content that those people will be able to see and resonate with.
Someone's asking about the posting of content, and how do you overcome that self-consciousness when posting content that would include yourself, so you're not sharing personal stuff or educational stuff?
For sure. Yeah, I think that this is a very, very common question to have. I would say start off small. Like, instead of maybe sharing, you don't have to share personal content about, your kids' lives or, your husband, what your husband had for dinner that night. I would say start small, like, maybe how I started my business. This is how I started my business. You'll find that when you actually share just little bits and pieces, and it doesn't have to be like the deep down nitty gritty that maybe you feel uncomfortable sharing. But if you share little small pieces about who you are, you will be amazed of the people that will probably respond to you, whether that's in a direct message, a private message to say, oh, I didn't know that, or that happened to me too. Sharing of that content binds us together, right? You start to see other people as humans, and it's not just this, social media platform and people posting, a picture here or a educational post here, or here's a challenge that I had over here. You start to see the real person. Again, you don't have to share a lot. That's something that I don't necessarily do either myself. But I'll give you an example. I shared a post on Sunday, and the title of the post was, I leave parties without saying goodbye. And that is the truth about me. I've actually never talked about that at all. But I've done it ever since I was a kid. When it was my time to leave, I just got up and I left. I hated saying goodbye to everybody. I still hate that. I just get up and leave. And it drives my husband crazy. But I must have had 80 comments on that post of people saying, oh my God, I do this too. And it was something as silly as just saying, I get up and I leave parties without saying goodbye. That was it. It wasn't really that personal. It wasn't really that vulnerable. It was just actually something that I did. And so I think that if you start small in terms of just sharing little bits about maybe your business, challenges, maybe you could talk about a challenge you've had throughout the pandemic about this small business. It doesn't have to be deeply personal to still have an impact on your audience and connect with your audience. So we've got our pillars. We've got our goals. Our goals are, our buckets. So our goal might be to educate, to entertain, to all of those things. And then you got to come up with topics. Like, how do we come up with topics? So how I come up with topics is I use this little formula, and then I will share with Todd and Hayden afterwards. I have a 10-page guide that goes through all of this that you can actually fill in online, which is great. But examples of topics of your ideal audience are, you have to really get to the pain points of your ideal audience when you are sharing information. So what are some of the frustrations that your ideal audience have? What are their fears? What are some of the challenges that they're having? What are some of the limiting beliefs? What are they motivated by? Can you provide any solutions to some of those pain points? Do they have desires? What do they want? So this is just an overview of how do I come up with topics. So I'll give you an example of how I do it for myself. So let's go back to my pillars. My pillars are my content creation tips. I will have a goal to educate people, and I will think about something right away. Like, what are some of the frustrations that they have? The frustrations that they have are that they don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time. They're a small business owner. They're wearing multiple hats. So I'm going to talk to them about repurposing content. I'm going to educate them. Boom. Done. Second pillar, saving time on social media, specifically saving time. I'm going to talk about batching content. So how to batch content so that they can save time. I'm going to actually entertain them in this. So I might do an Instagram reel, or I might do something funny, or I might do a GIF or a meme, but I'm really, really focusing on the topic of batching the content. And then lastly, I have a social media strategy as one of my pillars as well. My goal in this time might be to inspire my audience. And I might inspire them by showing them how they can change their Instagram bio in one quick step that could reach more audience members or their ideal audience. So this might inspire them to go and do it. So I might say something like, optimize your Instagram bio in less than 2 minutes. Boom. So they would be like, okay, they would read that post. They would see that post and they go, okay, great. I can do that really, really quickly. Quick win. I inspired them to do something. It still meets my goals in my pillar strategy, social media strategy, and I was able to inspire them as well. So this is something that happens all the time. People say to me, but Michelle, does everyone see my posts? So if I posted it, my mom said to me a couple of weeks ago, did you see this new bracelet that I posted? My mom is also a small business owner here in Kilworth and Kamoka. And she does beaded gemstone bracelets. And she messaged me a couple weeks ago and she said, did you see the new bracelet that I posted? And I said, no, Mom, I did not see the bracelet. She said, no, I posted it this morning. And I had to explain to her that that's not how algorithms work, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, TikTok. The reality is that each of your posts will usually only be shown to about 10% of your followers, if not less. So how algorithms work is you make a post, okay? Facebook's a little different because they don't have organic reach, whereas Instagram has organic reach. People that aren't following you can see your post, whereas on Facebook, only the people that are following you can see your posts. So once you've made your post, as soon as that post goes out, the algorithm will show it to 10%, let's just say we'll use 10% for round numbers, of your followers. If they engage in it in any interaction, it doesn't matter what it is. If they like it, if they comment on it, if they share it, right away that is said to the Instagram or Facebook algorithm or TikTok algorithm if you're using that too. Wow, this must be really good content. This must be content that is worthy of showing it to more people. So then they will push it out further. And if it then gets more engagement in that next round, they will continue to push it out. However, if you are posting something and does not get a lot of engagement in the first hour to 2 hours, I hate to tell you this, but your post is now dead. It is what we would call a post that doesn't really get seen by many people afterwards. And the shelf life of that post, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, is usually under 24 hours, and likely no one will see it ever again, except you. So this is the fact for every algorithm for all social media platforms. Algorithms are very, very simple in the back end, and they are looking for triggers by your audience, not you, your audience. So this is where the marketing rule of 7 comes into play. I learned about this a little over a year ago when I took a marketing course through Western. And what was so interesting about this was I thought, oh my gosh, this comes right back to my teaching and how I teach to the students. So as a high school teacher, I was a math teacher, but also a health and physical education teacher. Kids would come into my class and I would wonder the second time when I was talking about, how did you not remember? We just talked about it yesterday. I just did a whole 75-minute lesson on this yesterday. How don't you remember this? Well, because the marketing rule of 7 tells you it takes an average of 7 interactions with a brand before a purchase will take place, or whether or not you've got it stored up here. So I started thinking about this and I thought, well, when I was teaching, I used to repurpose all my material all the time. So if I was teaching it in this way, I would repurpose it and teach it in a different way the next day. And then maybe the next day I would repurpose it and show it from a different angle the next day. Why? Because not everybody consumes our content the same way, and not everybody shows up at the same time. So back to that slide that I just gave before, not everybody sees your content. So, and I know I will sometimes feel I will post a piece of content and I'm like, oh, this is so good, this is so great. And I think it's great, but maybe it didn't fall well with my audience and it didn't get shown to my audience very, very well. So I will have to post it again, but in a different way. And I'll show you in a second how that works. So why would I want to repurpose my content? What would be the actual purpose of this? Well, number one, it creates consistency with your message, which is great for the algorithm. It's also great for your audience. Your audience knows that when they come on your platform or if they've been engaging with your social media content, you are consistent. Meaning, if I were to take a look at your Facebook page or your Instagram page or your TikTok or your Pinterest boards, they should all follow the same theme. So what I mean by that is if you are talking about, I'll use my mom's case for an example. If you're talking about beaded bracelets, and you're talking about the types of beads that they are, the types of string that you use, the colors, whatever. Now, I don't want you to now start talking about boats. I don't know why I'm on a boat theme today, but I'm clearly wanting to go near water. That would be very confusing to the audience of why you would be doing that. So repurposing content is great because it does create consistency and clarity with your message. It saves you time. It saves you so much time. I do this with all of my clients. I do oversee 6 clients plus myself, which I didn't used to use myself as a client, but I do now. It saves you a lot of time. It also creates accessibility to your audience. Like I mentioned before, not all of your audience or your followers or your community members see your content, but they might not resonate with certain types of content. An example of this is in Instagram, we have something called carousels, which allow you to share 10 slides, almost like a mini slideshow, sort of like what I'm doing here. Some people don't like slideshows. They prefer video content. So maybe your audience prefers video content and they resonate with that more. So if you created a carousel style post, you could also create a video style post as well for those audience members that may resonate and actually they engage with that more. And like I said before, not everyone sees your content that you've posted, so you can repurpose your little heart out and no one will have seen the 3 posts that you made before on that exact same topic. So let's do an example. I use this example because I've actually done this exact thing. So I created this post and this post on Instagram about why Instagram carousels are a secret weapon. I actually go into why they're a secret weapon and I give 5 reasons why they're a secret weapon. What I used in that 10-slide Instagram post, I then repurposed into a list post, which was a single image post that I not only shared on Instagram, but I also shared on Facebook, and I also made it a pin on Pinterest. I did that all in one shot on a scheduling platform, which I'm going to share with you shortly. I also created an Instagram reel with this. I don't have a problem being in front of the camera, so I do use Instagram reels a lot. I find them a lot easier to make personally than creating a carousel. That carousel post probably took me upwards of an hour to create, whereas the reel actually took me about 10 minutes. I then created a short form video on this and I went over the 5 reasons. I also created an infographic with the 5 reasons as well. I created a blog on it. I went into a little deeper of those 5 reasons, so I dove a bit deeper. I attached that blog to my email list. I already told you that I recreated that pin for Pinterest. And then I used it as an IGTV, which was longer than 60 seconds, where I actually talked about my strategy of how I created carousels for my audience. So with that one piece of content, which I call an anchor piece of content, there was so much information in there. I basically extracted the information from there and just repurposed it, recycled it, recreated it into those 8 other pieces of content. What's amazing is that I've never had anyone say, you know what, Michelle, I've heard enough about why Instagram carousels are a secret weapon, likely because my audience has probably only seen 1 or 2 of these of the 8 that I posted. So here's a quick repurposing content checklist or cheat sheet, if you will. Again, you can screenshot this, do whatever you need to, take a picture of it. It's great. My first thing that I always do with my pieces of content is I use different formats. So what I mean by different formats is for Instagram, for example, we have carousel posts, we have single image posts, we have list posts, we have infographics, we have reels, we have stories. Instagram has a variety of formats and features. It's the same thing for Facebook as well. You can do video versus static image posts. You can do different formats there. Refresh old posts. Head back and take a look at something that you posted 3 months ago that had great engagement. Refresh it. Take a look at it. Maybe take a different stance on it. Potentially, maybe you just refresh it with some new graphics. It's the same content, but you refresh it with new graphics. You've just saved yourself a lot of time right there. I'm a big fan of using number list posts. 5 reasons why you can get this, 10 reasons to do this, my top 3 this. These are great because they're savable. People like to save these things because they can come back to it quickly and then they can do it quickly. Maybe I actually repurpose this content checklist into a post later on, 8, repurposing content checklist, 8 reasons to repurpose content, whatever. And I guarantee I'll get a lot of saves out of that because people like to save that content because they can do it. It will empower them and inspire them to do that. Check your insights. On all social media platforms, you have insights that are built into the native app. Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok. You can look and see how well your content is performing and how it's landing with your ideal audience. So for example, if you look at the last 7 days and you say, oh, wow, this post did really, really well in terms of it reached a lot of people. I had a lot of content interactions. Wow, that must mean that people really, really like this piece of content. Awesome. I would star that. I use everything in a Google Sheet. I would star it, and I would actually probably reschedule that post to come out in a couple months. And again, I would just refresh it a little bit, or maybe I'd change up the format. But if that worked really, really well with my audience and landed well with my audience, likely it's going to land well with my audience again. Use different buckets. So let's just say, for example, my mom was, I'm going back to my mother about the beaded bracelets. Maybe she educates her audience and she says, this is how I create, gemstone bracelets versus flat. I don't know anything about bracelets, so just bear with me. So this is how I create this bracelet versus this bracelet. That's an educational style post. Versus if she were to do an inspiring type of post, maybe she shares her behind the scenes of, this is how I made this bracelet in under 5 minutes. I don't know. It could be something like that. So look at something different. I want to share a couple Instagram pages in a second so I can show you the different styles as well. Recreate your post from a different angle. I did a post a couple weeks ago about the 4 myths about blank. I could recreate it from a different angle and say 4 facts about blank. Do a completely opposite that you just talked about. Add any of your content. If you have an email list, link that into, write an email and then say, hey, I just did a post on blah, 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 blah. You might find it helpful because this will, save you time, or you can learn about this, or this is a great recipe to add to your blah, 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 blah. Link that right into your email list. It gives it new life. And likely if, someone is on your email list, they may not have seen that content already. And I always copy to another platform. And the reason why I do this is because Pinterest, for example, is just another venue of Google, right? It's a search app. So once they click on that, it will bring them directly to my post that I made in Instagram. So now that you've made all of these posts, you're like, wow, how do I save time? Well, I highly suggest social media scheduling tools. Why? Because they're super convenient. You can batch your content. You can upload your content to the scheduling software platform. And then you can actually, that will free up time. I do my batching of my content on Sundays. On Sunday night, I schedule it all out, and it goes out at a time where I see that my audience is online. And you can see if your audience is online when you go into the insights of your app. It will actually tell you when the majority of your audience is online. It will show you numbers and will have a little bar graph. So my content goes out at that time. It also allows you to manage multiple platforms, and it gives you a consistent presence online. So a lot of these scheduling platforms will allow you to share your post to Facebook, to Pinterest, to Instagram. You've already got the content, you just share it to all 3. So that's kind of great for that. The best free social media schedulers that I've found, the 2 that I use primarily is Facebook Creator Studio, which is great. Facebook Creator Studio will share to both Facebook and Instagram. Later is the other one that I use. Later will also share to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I'm trying to think of the other ones that it does as well. Loomly is another one, Hootsuite, Buffer, Canva, which is the graphic making software, which is how I made this presentation today. Canva also has just announced, it's only been about 2 or 3 months now, you can actually schedule your Facebook and your Instagram right from Canva. So after you've made your graphic and you're going to create your caption, you can actually just share it and schedule it right out in there. They've got a calendar. It's amazing. And then lastly, we have Sprout Social as well, which is one that a lot of my social media manager friends they use this one as well. But the two that I use are Facebook Creator Studio and Later. Both are free. If you want it to do a little bit more with it, for example, I have a client that does Instagram stories, and I schedule out her stories. That's something that you have to pay for. It's a little bit different. So here is my workflow when it comes to scheduling out my content. I make an editorial calendar, and you can do this in a variety of ways. I have a Google spreadsheet that I use that I have all of my, and I'll show you in a second what it looks like. I have all of my content in there, and I know what I'm posting on each day. I know what I'm going to be talking about. Again, this goes back to our pillars and our buckets. After you've made an editorial calendar, and again, just to talk quickly about the editorial calendar, if you have like a launch or you're doing a big sale or you're going to be doing a big promo, that's going to make a difference. And that's why you're going to want to have that editorial calendar, so you know to be talking about it regularly leading up to, you know, this big sale or a big opening or whatever it is you're launching. I then create all of my graphics, and then I download the graphics, because that's what you need to do. You need to, after you've created the graphics in Canva, that's what I use. You would download those graphics, and then you would upload them into the scheduler. You get to schedule out and select the date and time you want them to go out. You write your captions, and if you are in Instagram, you would insert any hashtags that you would like to use, and you just hit publish, and it will go out on the days that you schedule them out on. You do not need to be present. You do not need to be hanging out by your phone. It does save you time. So once you've decided, okay, I'm going to post twice a week, you can batch your content on the Sunday, schedule that out, and now it doesn't matter whether or not you're actually physically by your phone, or you've forgotten, or you've gotten busy. You won't need to worry about that, because you will be moving and grooving and not having to worry about that, which is great. But social media is meant to be social. So all of this comes back to building a community. So a lot of times I go back to having a conversation with a friend of mine who is a small business owner, and she says, not a lot of people engage on my content. And I say, okay, well, are you engaging on other people's content? And she says, well, no, I make the post, and then, you know, I'm waiting for people to come and engage on my content. But remember, it's social media. Like if I always went to your house all the time and brought you dinner and brought you wine and brought you chips, and you never ever did that back with me, ever, it would probably get really old real quick. I would probably stop doing that. So social media is meant to be social. So if someone does comment on your content, they say, oh my God, this is great. I have a policy within 24 hours, I respond back to that comment. Thank you so much for your comment, or I'm really glad that you found that valuable. And something that I do is that I would then click on their profile, and if something in their profile resonated with me and I found value in it, I will comment on that as well. Loyalty in your community will be the driving force behind your social media. I can tell you that is 100% true. If you have a loyal following of people that you're commenting on their content, they're commenting on your content, you're building connections, you're building a community, and that is highly, highly, highly valuable, especially when it comes to people then referring you to other people, recommending you to other people, et cetera, especially in this world where we're not actually always out and seeing storefront brick and mortars anymore. A social media presence is super, super, super important. I want to show you just a couple things so that we save time for questions at the end. Here's an example. This is a London insurance agent, Eric. He's doing some Instagram reels here, 5 calls to make to your insurance agent. This happens to be an educational post. This post here is a conversational post. If you read the caption, he talks a little bit about, you know, how he gets referrals. This was a funny post, a week in the life of an insurance agent, brought to you in GIFs. This was quite funny, again, entertaining as well. educational home insurance for beginners. Tim Beeler here, another example. You know, he uses a variety of different content. Reminder, this is an inspiring type of post, quote post. Here's an IGTV that he's done. He actually collaborated with another person on how to build a community. Again, strategy, why people follow. And again, back to my content. This was the piece of content that I did about I leave parties early. Build your social media strategy like a pizza. It just so happened to be World Pizza Day on Saturday. Who knew? So I thought, you know what, I'll get a little creative with that. That posted very, very well. People were like, oh, I never ever thought about it like that. And a lot of comments, a lot of people thought it was creative, but also people were able to actually picture how the strategy was built and how I build the strategy for myself. Again, as I told you before, I like to entertain my face when someone tells me they're saving time repurposing content. This is really what my face looks like. I cannot lie. Yeah, so back to my sheets, just to show you, this is an idea that you would see. So I have everything already written in here. I have, again, if there's any special days, World Pizza Day, today's National French Fry Day, you better believe I'm making fries or finding a chip truck. How to build your social media strategy like a pizza, that's what I did. What was the content bucket? It was about inspiration. You know, I wanted to inspire people to build their own social media strategy. I did that in a carousel style format. And if I have any notes I need to make as well. And everything, I keep everything here and to just share with you, like these would be, I would keep track of all of my metrics, specifically how much the content's reached, website clicks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let me just go back to this here, back to present. Yeah, and then that's it. Thank you so much for joining the workshop. Hopefully you'll have questions for me. It's my favorite part. It's hard when you're trying to do this presentation and, you know, I can only see a few faces down there, but I really appreciate you guys for being here. It's been great.
There's some comments, I guess, and you mentioned and profiled a few different scheduling tools that you were aware of, and there was a comment about an additional one, but that there may be a fee and that type of thing. I guess there is a number of other scheduling tools that do have fees. I guess it really depends on what functionalities that you're looking to, like how intensively you're looking to use a tool, right? Whether you
if you want to really, like, if you want, it depends on how much you're sharing, what type, if you're sharing video, if you're sharing long form video. Obviously, the more you want to use that platform and the more formats you want to use, it will cost money. I use Later, so to give you a little bit of a, like, to how much money it's going to cost, I post probably every day. I also schedule all of my posts out. I use all the formats as well, and it's $25 a month. And that gives me Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So I use all of those, and I'm able to keep that still within $25 a month. That's with Later as well. And I also find the Later platform is the help desk. So they have someone online help all the time, and they get back to you right away if you can't figure something out.
Looking here, I guess one question that I had in terms of strategy around social media posting, and you always see discussion about, you know, is it a what's the frequency or the quantity and how often, and is it, you know, would you say, you know, or versus the balance against quality? I would say that probably quality is the first. Quality trumps quantity, right? And then as far as quantity is concerned, is it more of a you know, being flexible and dynamic, and just like you said, building that relationship with the personal relationship around your social media profile sometimes might just responding as you go, right?
Mm-hmm. And it comes down to two things. So the first thing is, what are your overall goals? Like, why are you using social media? Everyone is using social media for a different reason. So you might be using social media just maybe to maybe showcase some of the products that you have. So maybe you're only posting once or twice a week. There are some people that are using social media to launch something huge, like a massive service. So they're posting every single day. They're on a different frequency. I have a friend of mine who runs like a French bulldog account. She posts 3 times a day, but her goal is to get like as many eyes on the account as possible. But the other fact that comes into play here is, how much can you commit to? Like, what is it that you can commit to? I know that when I first started using social media, I sat down and I said, okay, what can I honestly commit to? I can commit to 3 times a week. That is it. And that is what I committed to. And that's where you create that consistency, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It's whatever you can commit to, even if it's once a week. But that consistency, that value of that post when you show up once a week is value driven, full of quality, like you said.
Very good. So we do have a couple of new questions here in the chat box. One is from Wendy. I guess in the Facebook Creator Studio, if I connect with Instagram, I'll make sure I get the acronyms right here. But are all my posts going to be shared with Instagram, or can I pick and choose?
No, in Facebook Creator Studio, you can pick and choose. So Facebook owns Instagram, so that's why you have to connect both. So it's the same owner, good old Mark Zuckerberg. So you can choose to just do Facebook, or you can choose to just do Instagram, or you can do them both. You can share them both. But a little rule of thumb for this one, if you want it to go to both, you have to post it in Instagram, which they will give you there will be a little button underneath that says, would you like to share this to Facebook as well? And you could click yes, publish, great. But you can't do it the other way around. I'm not sure why that is. You can't post it in Facebook. That button doesn't show up for Instagram. It's the other way around.
Very good. So we have another question here, and I guess it relates to management of social media accounts when it's within a business, right? Where there's multiple people that are interacting with a social media account. Is there a need to have only one person responding, or is it good, I guess it's identifying what the risk is potentially of having multiple people with different approaches to responding to different things on the social media? I guess it should be one person handling the account, or is it this is a great question. I get this question all the time, primarily because I do have that social media account with the school board that you have a lot of people coming in. However, we have a social media policy where there are only 3 of us using that account. So if you have a small business, let's say with 10 people working there, maybe it's you and 2 other people that you have a social media policy on who's posting what is our brand voice, what is a no-no that we would never ever do, because that's the other thing. With all of my clients, I don't allow them to post anything. And that's because if they get into hot water and they post something, and then we're trying to fix it in the back end, that's a lot of work that I got to put that fire out very quickly. So I would recommend no more than 3, 1 or 2 people that are really in charge of it. Look at what your social media policies are like. These would be the guidelines of who's posting what is our brand voice. We're responding to comments within 24 hours, for example. And that would be another thing. And then what are the no-nos that we would not do on social media? What are some things we would not share on social media? And those people would have to be very tight in terms of their communication as well. But no, I would not give the password to multiple people to comment, primarily because especially Facebook and Instagram, the algorithm in the back end, if they see too many different people logging in and out, I mean, you guys know this, you get logged out of your account,
you're trying to figure out the password to come back in. It's like Fort Knox trying to get back in there. You know, you got to give a password from that password. I mean, it's hell. So if you've got other people going in there as well, then it sends a signal to Facebook that they're in Instagram that there's some suspicious activity, and they can actually block your account.
So we've got another one. If you're running someone's social media account, do you also post in other people's account who comment on your clients' accounts? I guess that's a bit of a strategy there. Where is the line between the owner of the account, your client interaction on social media, and you being on their social media account? So I guess it enables the interactions, right? And I guess that's the joy of the social media world, right? That you can play off on the different accounts, and people have different identities and business accounts versus personal accounts, right? And
yeah, for if we're talking about like for a social media manager, you know, in my case, I actually don't do any commenting for any of my clients. I believe that is their voice, and it's a sacred space for them to connect with the people that are in their audience, whether that's in private messages. Again, I don't touch those, and I do have to give regular text messages if they haven't commented to remind them to comment when people are commenting on their account. But often they're very, very, very busy. However, there are social media managers that do engagement where they actually engage with your audience as them. But that's a really big world, and it's just not a world that I'm interested in at all. But if you were to have someone commenting on if you were to hire a social media manager and have them commenting on your content, meaning have them comment on commenters, I would, you know, obviously have very strict guidelines on what would be appropriate and what wouldn't be appropriate about what I would say versus what I wouldn't say.
yeah, so we'll send out a follow-up email to all participants and those that registered, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. And we're going to take a little break for the month of August from the webinar series, but we'll be back at it in the fall in September, and we're just working on the content, and maybe we'll see Michelle here again sometime in the near, not so distant future. We'll get another topic going on digital. But thank you very much, Michelle.
Thanks, Todd. And I'm just seeing some of the messages in the chat. Thank you guys so much. So kind. I wasn't looking at the chat before because I was really focused in here. So thank you so much for your kind messages. I appreciate that.
Very good. All right. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.